Hi everyone. We're gonna start in a second. Just waiting to our last guest, Malika. Who's here? Yeah. Yes. Thanks everyone for coming back for another HOTS Masterclass about sync and music supervision this time, and we have two great guests. Malika Bencherki and did I pronounce it well? Yeah, okay, thanks. And Dave Chase. Thanks for coming to us from Barcelona and from London, right?
From Sweden.
Sweden, sorry, yeah?
Malmo in Sweden.
Okay, sorry, though I did a lot of homework on you, but I don't know how I missed that, but great.
I hide it well.
Yeah. Okay, just to give a little intro about you, starting with Malika, just a little bio. So Malika brings a wealth of experience in both business and music supervision. She currently serves as the head of music supervision and licensing at Too Young Limited, where she oversees creative music searches, licensing, audio post-production for leading brands in the beauty, fashion, and luxury sectors. Malika's journey into the world of music supervision has been shaped by a unique blend of business acumen and creative expertise honed over years of working in marketing, business development, and digital quality consulting. With a solid foundation in business administration, she combines strategic thinking with a passion for curating soundtracks that elevate visual media.
Thank you. I will need this bio.
Okay. And Dave is the music advisor to global brands and creative leaders with over 20 years of experience shaping the musical language of iconic names like Burberry, Tiffany & Co., Accor, Bang & Olufsen, Harley-Davidson, and a lot more. As the Chief Music Officer at Listener, Dave blends creative, strategic, and commercial expertise to help brands sound better by dreaming bigger through music. He has supervised music for numerous fashion shows, global events, and advertising campaigns, while also launching music venues and producing live performances back in the days, I guess. And Dave's work bridges the gap between brands and music, ensuring that music becomes the core pillar of a brand identity. So I guess both of you really strong on the brand side of music supervision and licensing. But just to start, also, could I ask, like, what was your journey to music supervision? Just briefly, like, how did you end up here?
For me, music supervision, it all started with an internship when I read the job description, and I felt like this was going to become my profession. I just felt it, and so it started with an internship. I was, as you mentioned, studying business administration. I had a huge love for music and been studying music on my free time practically my whole life, but didn't plan it. So it started with a small internship experience and turned into my profession after.
Okay. Did you have any specific skill that they liked, or was it just luck, or you knew someone?
No, I actually got rejected and sent another email and another email until I finally got the internship. And then I learned, because an internship is about learning. I mean, I had some basic business skills, in fact, and music knowledge, but I had to learn from scratch what it is to be a music supervisor.
Okay. Thank you. Dave?
I was a musician, and I moved to London to try and take over the world from London with my music, and failed and quickly realized that it wasn't going to be. But while I was trying to promote my own band, I was meeting people and I was learning all about the industry without kind of even realizing it. So I saw in the back of a magazine called Melody Maker that there was a band looking for an office junior for a management company. And I called up and they said, "We've got 30 people coming in already, you're too late." And I said, "No, but I know how to do press releases, I know how to do this, I know how to do this, I do it all the time. You've got to see me, just 31, I'll be number 31, be quick, if you don't like me, kick me out in 5 minutes. And they said, "Okay, come." And then it got down to 2 of us, and we both did a few days for free each. And the band was called In Excess, and it was a long time ago, and they were about to release their final album with their singer Michael Hutchence, and they played me the demos of the album, and it had saxophones on it, and I was like, it's not cool anymore. Yeah, no one's going to buy this record. You're going to lose listeners. You're not going to gain anybody new. No one young is going to buy this. And they laughed, and then after I said it again on the next song, they told me to leave, and I thought I'd ruined my chances. But somebody in there introduced me to a brand consultancy that they were working with, who worked in sports and entertainment, a very small little company, but they worked with Coca-Cola and Carlsberg and brands like that. And they just said, they need someone like you who just talks obsessively about music that nobody has heard of or probably even wants to hear of. So I ended up moving to this company, and that was the beginning for me. It was a complete fluke, and just, I guess, tenacity and fluke.
Okay, great. And I think many people knows what music supervision is, and especially sync, but could you maybe explain what it is for you, maybe based on your day-to-day job? And because also like your approach is different, like him coming from the music side and being a musician. I guess that's also a very common thing for music supervisors, to be a musician first and then segueing into this. But also like you, and also like me, I sync a lot of music, but I'm not a musician. But so there's also a world outside of musicians to become a music supervisor. But how do you see your role as a music supervisor?
So I would say generally a music supervisor basically oversees any musical aspect of a project, an audiovisual project, but it can be many things. Even on my day-to-day, it is many things, because I work at different stages of different projects. Sometimes they need my skills for just a part of the creative process. Sometimes they need it for the 360, meaning they come up with just a creative idea, even a sketch of a campaign, and we start the creative process in finding the music. Then once we find the music, we need to clear those rights, and it can go up to basically doing the creative music editing on film. We have a studio, we have 3 studio and sound engineers in-house, so we do also all the sound design that goes with the music, and do all these editings. And sometimes for example, a TV campaign, it can be a lot of assets. It can be different cut downs, many variation of the same campaign. So it can be all of these things. Sometimes it's just the creative, sometimes it's just the licensing. A client can just come up with their idea. They want that song, and they need you to help them to get those rights for that song. So in that case, you would not be involved in any creative process. But generally, it's also with clients we work closely with. Their music partners. It's like having a best friend that knows about it and can advise you and tell you. At the end of the day, it's always the client's choice. We are not telling them what they need to pick. We advise them, we show them ideas, we give them our expertise, but at the end of the day, it's their picks and what they decide to go with.
What's your take?
For me, it's a little bit different in that part of what I do is music supervision. So I started with brands, but it was more on brand entertainment through music and booking musicians to perform at events, or booking artists to be part of campaigns and plotting all of that. And it was really in phase 2 of my career, after I'd worked at record labels and launched music venues and worked in quite a marketing, I guess, kind of focus, where it was really when I joined Burberry, where they suddenly asked me to choose music for things. And I was like, okay. And that meant I've taken a different approach to it. So for music supervision, for me, yes, the central part of it is choosing music, clearing the rights, making sure that everything is bang on in terms of how the music, what part of the track, how it's mixed, who's performing it, what style of performance, what instrumentation and other textures are in there. And I take it very personally, and I'm deeply involved in every project that I do, whether it's a colleague's project or my own, I kind of take it to the attention to detail is integral to making it work. However, I also, when I'm having those conversations around the music, I'm also trying to create a bigger project around it with them and kind of thinking about it, but how does this particular aspect, this one campaign, how does it fit with the music in your stores? How does it fit with any event strategy that you have? What's the sound of that? Where does music fit in elsewhere? What kind of talent are you working with? Is that reflected in the music that we're choosing here? What do you want people to feel from your brand as a whole? Are they feeling it from this campaign as well? So I try to join the dots a lot more. So I kind of take a 360-degree kind of approach to music in general, but normally it's led by a music decision around a piece of music.
And do you think that there are many brands who can afford this sort of integrity with music and think about their campaigns with music in such an integral way?
Yes, there's plenty of brands who can. Whether they do or not is another matter. And I'm having conversations with brand people every day about whether they could and how they might do that. And the reality is that a lot of the time, the marketing and creative teams and the business leaders don't have the time to commit to kind of going deep on music. They expect their agencies to be kind of doing that for them to a certain level. Hence why ad agencies are kind of leading when it comes to the music decisions around ad campaigns. And whether it joins the dots is whether the marketing team has the foresight and the time to consider how it connects and whether the agency has considered how it comes together. Often they do, but not always. And it's hard because business leaders now have so much more to do every day, and kind of like most companies don't have enough people to do the work that they want to do. So it's kind of lower on the agenda. They want to choose people to help them choose good music through music supervisors that they employ, etc. But they don't necessarily. Christopher Bailey, the chief creative officer at Burberry, had the time and space because he was spending so much time obsessing about music that he needed someone to bounce ideas off and fuel him with knowledge. And one or two of them do, but majority of businesses kind of don't have the capacity for it.
Yeah. Malika, what's your experience with this?
Yeah, my experience is that music always, most of the time, comes last in a production. However, at brands, when it's to brands directly, they have more, they invest more time, more resources. When it's working with production companies, which they outsource their projects, then it's a bit more complicated. I think nowadays, anyway, with the music is becoming more and more important, and also simply because of the amount of needs that they have, because now they're producing so much content with the digital explosion. I mean, Chanel is producing 300 pieces of content a year. So
do they use different music
so
for
now
all of
there's they use different music for all of them, but now there's new positions that open within brands, which are music coordinators. So we are working, for example, and they still hire music supervision companies, but they have one person who's going to be able to coordinate basically all those providers and music supervisors and sound engineers that they hire externally, and yeah, so there is people, I mean, Dave, you've been working on music specifically at Burberry, which is something quite new. I think it's positions that were not existing a few years ago.
Yeah.
Yeah, in Hungary, it definitely feels like it comes down to the choice of the personal choice of and the subjective taste of people working on the campaign, you know, and it's not like part of the brand's identity per se, just you know, they want to find something cool and up to date and fresh, but that's it. And okay, when you search for music, what's the usual sources and routes you take? And if you could sprinkle some hope here.
Yes.
in the room.
So us, we developed basically because of the amount of music we need to review every week. We developed a process that works with us, which is basically we have our trusted sources. The trusted sources are, of course, magazines, curators, even personal curators. It can be labels that we trust that constantly put ongoing solid releases. And we have all that automated into one big playlist. And we review that. So we curate on top of the curation that we already trust, which helps us win a lot of time, because there's 100,000 tracks released per day, and if we start looking like that, it's difficult. But so there's that. That's, let's say, our main way, and constant review, weekly review, and we update these sources constantly. I mean, constantly. Once every 2 months or once a quarter. And other than that, of course, every time we have a specific search, it's the opportunity to discover new artists for this specific search.
Do you sign artists at all, or you just keep track of songs and reach out to them when?
Yeah, we don't sign them because we're not a record label. So we love actually just finding upcoming artists that we can give an opportunity, find the right opportunity for. So we sometimes we drop them a line and see also what's the setup of rights, because sometimes now there's so many artists self-released, which is absolutely amazing. I'm a big supporter of that. But sometimes the rights are not set up for us to be able to clear it. And at the end of the day, the music can be great, but the service that we're bringing to the client is that we're bringing them also a license, a set of rights that they can use. So there's a bit of that. We don't sign, but we sometimes do a bit of pedagogy. We reach out to them. We tell them, "Are you registered? Is it all set, etc." Well, maybe you should think about registering the tracks, because if the right opportunity comes, then we'll know that.
And so, what do you think? What could be a good advice as a strategy for an up and coming band to get on the radars of people like yourself? Is there? I mean, there's no one good way, I'm sure, but
there isn't one good way, and every music supervisor is different in what they're open to and what they have time for. I probably get around 30 emails a day on average from different sources, whether it's an independent artist, a big company who have a huge roster. It's easier to search through a database of a large roster than it is to go to individual artists every time. But I try to check in. I don't have a structure like yours. Mine is really chaotic. When I find something that I think is amazing, I kind of slot it into different playlists, but I create new playlists every day. So it's like there's thousands of playlists with different things in it. So when I'm doing a search, I'll kind of start by thinking around what the music needs might be. And kind of my first phase of it is just to be really open-minded. Even if there's a specific brief, I'm still looking at it in a really open-minded way, because I kind of think there might be a better solution as well. So I can also deliver a curveball option along with the one that really matches their brief. But in amongst all of that, I'm digging back through all the different songs I've come across along the way, whether it's from emails that have been sent to me that I've listened to and skim-listened, and half the time that's all you can do. You're just skimming through bits of the song. And I've got quite good at that, kind of realizing when a song has lots of dynamics to it, that I go back in and dive deeper into it to listen to it more thoroughly. But if it's got a very kind of one set sound to it, I've probably listened to it in about 3 seconds and moved on to the next thing and put an opinion to it on that particular search. It doesn't mean I won't look at it again when I'm kind of doing my chaotic approach to searches in the future, but it just kind of, it just means that it's a bit slower for me, I guess, but I don't mind that. And where I discover it all from, it's people sending emails, but it's also A&R people that I know, people whose taste I trust. That's a big thing for me. There's so many people who I trust, and I follow what their music they're putting on their social media posts. I'm talking. If they're going to gigs and I happen to be in town that day, I'll try and kind of be a hanger-on to follow to whatever they're going to already, rather than try to predefine what I think I should be checking out as well. So I probably went around the subject a lot there, but
no, it was a great answer, absolutely. And when you do search for a specific campaign, let's say, or brief, what are the elements that you really look for? Are there any like?
Actually, that's quite connected to your previous question for me. If I have any advice, at least I'm speaking from the areas where I'm specialized in. So I'm specialized in fashion, beauty, luxury, and it's quite a different specific field for music.
Can you elaborate? Like, how is it different also?
Because I think music plays a really important role. It's one of the spaces where there is actually room for more experimental, more bold, more unique music, because it's also there's more space for culture than, let's say, advertisement for fast food or something like this. So this makes it fun, because you have the space to actually push for interesting music, up and coming artists. And what I was meaning with an advice to artists who want to get their music placed is to actually don't do music for sting. But that comes from my little area. It's really me. When I'm looking for music, I'm looking for something unique. I'm looking for something that has personality. And maybe the only thing that when I fall in love with a song and think that it would be just perfect for a project, I need to pitch that music to the brand, and for that I need a bit of support. So I need some sort of profile. So it's much easier for me to be able to push for a song if there's a profile that comes with it that I can pitch to the brand, because sometimes it's not just about the sound. They're really looking for an association, artist that can embody also the values of the brand. So I would say just spending time into the studio, crafting great music, and and building a profile, and
And so when you pitch music to a client, what kind of space is there to really just tell more about the band and the profile? Like you write a little note to it, or how does that work usually?
Yes, it depends. It varies really on the size of the project, or on the need. Sometimes there's a need of a bigger brand association for a huge TVC campaign than there is on a small digital project. So maybe for the small digital project, I will just write a few lines in my email to explain why I think this artist would fit greatly for the project. But and maybe for a bigger scale project, it would be a whole presentation that is going to be put together. So it depends. But generally, it's needing to find a bit of biography online, a bit of interviews, some sort of press pictures that could be high quality press pictures, and all these things. They really help to land opportunities from, especially when speaking to marketing directors, and they're like, okay, we trust you on the sound part, we kind of like it, but who's this person and who's this artist, and we want to see, and so
they also want to know that it's not going to come back and bite them. They're working with an artist who has reasonable values and everything else as well, which you don't necessarily get all that information, but the basic biographies and stuff will generally give you a sense that, okay, this is an artist who's doing their thing. We can trust that it reflects well that we're supporting this artist with our campaign. We could, in the future, do more together if the opportunity arises. Often it doesn't, but when it does, fantastic. But yeah, when there's no information, it can actually stop things from happening. So it's a really valid point. There's an artist called Benjamin Clementine who, at Burberry, we worked with him on probably about 15 different projects in the end. But right at the beginning, Burberry was all about Britishness, and we used British musicians in everything that we did. And I couldn't work out if Benjamin was British. I could see that he had some London connections, but he'd been discovered busking in Paris and had these huge connections in France. And it was kind of like, how can I find this? And I was really digging deep, and it took me 6 months to find enough information to think that he's probably from London. I'm going to take the risk. And I sent the song to the chief creative officer, who called me up, and I was in his office 5 minutes later, and he was saying, can he play live at the show? It's kind of like, okay, I don't know, haven't found him yet, but let's see. And it was just because yes, we ended up doing all this great work together, but we actually would have done it even sooner and done more projects with him had we been able to find the simple information. Okay, it worked for him, the mystery around him, and actually probably made me more obsessive about using his music, but also, he would have got there quicker with us, whether he wanted to or not.
Yeah, that's great. And so, do you have opportunity to use unknown or really just under the radar artists a lot because of the volume, probably?
Exactly. That's for me the best news ever, because it's very hard. It's more hard work because the sync licensing process hasn't been changing since 15 years, since it's been invented. The way you clear songs has been the same. So whether you clear a song from A++ artist, worldwide artist, or whether you clear a song from an upcoming under the radar, as you said, artist, it's going to be the same amount of contracts, going to be the same amount of conversations, and sometimes even more, because there's a lot of digging to be done and everything is not so clarified. So yes, there's much more opportunities. However, it's a big headache to be able sometimes to push for more upcoming artists, because sometimes there's loads of fragmentation of copyrights. There's 7 co-writers on one song, so you have a small digital project and an opportunity to place an upcoming artist, but then that means that you need to probably do 7 contracts for the publishing, 1 contract for the master, so that's 8 contracts. That's like negotiating with 8 different people. For in the end there are disputes, and sometimes it's shooting yourself in the feet for the client. So we do our best to do it, because we truly believe that the music from these upcoming artists is the music that is supposed to be placed on those digital content, and this is the opportunity for them. But the brands, sometimes they just don't have time. They don't have time for you to figure out for weeks all these things. So they turn into more simplest, easier way to license music, like library music, which has been booming in the past years, which is really sad, honestly.
Yeah, I mean, there's all these statistics how library music is really taking over in terms of revenues, the commercially released artists, and with all the technology that they can also show for it, it's just gonna accelerate probably. What's your experience?
I think it's lazy, but I understand why people are doing it. It is the volume of content, it's the budgets, it's the lack of time able to spend on it, because music is the lowest kind of decision in their creative process, and it's added at the end. And it's a shame, because it really devalues the content that's being created when the music is a little bit soulless and doesn't make you feel anything. You get a sense of the vibe, but you could be standing in a lift listening to music at the same, for the same feeling. And so it's happening a lot. And I have some clients come to me who say specifically, they're like, we only have the budget for library music. So at that point, I like to go and find an artist who's willing to work within the budget where I can, if I have the time, to create something specific for it.
But I also see a lot, sorry to interrupt, that a lot of artists just produce music for libraries, and so the quality is kind of like there, and they're bringing their whole skill set. Obviously, it's not the emotional depth, and it's not the same usually, but
I think both sides, there's two scenarios that has been happening. For example, upcoming artists that are being signed by majors, so we have the opportunity for them. It turns out that the artist has been signed by a major, and the major or the people working at the major are not going to look at deals that are so low. So unfortunately, the artists are cut from potential opportunities because those companies don't just don't want to settle for these deals.
But it's also because they want their staff to focus on the bigger money. And that's the big reason for
that's
it,
exactly that. That's exactly that. They don't have, because there's so much amount and so much content. And the other scenario is also okay. So the artist is starting to produce for library music, but I read one contract that artists sometimes sign with library music. It's completely outrageous. They keep the rights forever, and they are given just, I don't know, nothing. It's
it's going back to the old work for hire kind of practices, and it really is outrageous. Yes, it puts an immediate bit of money in the pocket of the creator, but they get no royalties in the future because of the contracts that are being signed. And it's it devalues the opportunity for music makers to actually monetize your careers, because it's so hard to make money out of music when there's the industries that have to date been supporting music makers are starting to kind of squeeze you even more. Then it's less of a possibility as a career. It becomes a sideline and a secondary thing. So I vehemently push against certain production libraries, and actually have persuaded some quite big brands to stop using those companies. I shan't name any names, but there's one very large one from the same country as me. So I think there are some quite good production libraries out there who have been set up by musicians, for musicians, and actually put quality into what they do. And I think there's value there. And like I say, the opportunity where I can, I'll take whatever that small budget is and try and find someone who will actually earn money out of it and can retain their royalties and everything else as well.
Yeah, with technology and AI, I'm not talking about generative AI for music, but to streamline the process of music licensing in terms of rights holders or pricing or all that stuff. And perhaps you could talk about what Catalog is doing, because Too Young is involved in this project called Catalog.
Yes, exactly. Catalog is the new venture from Too Young. It's a project that has been started the ideation since years, but since about 3 years, it's been in the making. Our founder, Fred Schindler, is very determined to have this for the exact same reasons that I've been mentioning before. Is that we see we're like a front row, so we see our clients having so many more projects and all these opportunities, and we see that it's so difficult to just like have those opportunities landing on the desk of independent labels, of independent artists. And although we are trying to do our best, we see that with the team that we are, we're not going to change much. We might change something on one specific campaign on the scope of our brand, of the brand that we work for. So we launched Catalog, which is basically a sync licensing platform that streamlines the whole sync and licensing process that we do manually up until now. And it's the first time that we basically, independent labels has been gathered. So we got Ninja Tune, Warp, Compact,
like 20
K7.
plus.
Sorry?
It's 20 plus.
Yeah, exactly. I'm not going to,
Yeah.
but basically the big indies to come all under one roof, to be able to put their catalogs up for licensing. It's not going to be fully automatic. We're trying step by step to get there, but of course. there's still going to be rounds of approvals and to respect the desires of each artist. So those are the main imprints, but we will also have and be having music from independent artists. So all the curation that we've been doing for specific campaigns, we try to onboard also that music onto Catalog. And Catalog is going to be a members-only platform that will be given, the keys will be given basically to members that are in the profession that, for example, Dave or like recognized music supervisors, agencies. So it's going to be a B2B platform, and yeah.
Okay, so if someone gets signed by one of these indie labels, let's say, then they have an easier way to make their way into Catalog. And
of course. But Catalog is not, I mean, it's members only on the client side, but on the music side, we will continue doing our work, because what we wanted to do is also streamline a part of Too Young. So, of course, for the bigger campaign, it is not going to happen that way, but one of our core expertise is also the curation. We present 15 tracks to our clients, but 15, we try that those 15 tracks are relevant. And that's what we want to do for Catalog as well. We don't want it to be a sea of music. We still want to curate it, but we are open to finding music from any different source. So we will at some point also have open submission, yes, for independent artists that just want to have their music on Catalog. It's not going to be necessarily through those imprints.
Do you work with technology in any ways?
I don't. Not on the side of technology, but I'm supportive of everything that's being done at the moment, and I think there's so many interesting new developments underway. We were talking about it before. We don't know the ins and outs of it. We don't know the detail, but we know that there's some really good people creating really good projects such as Catalog, which enable, will enable both speeding up the processes of sync to enable people to actually do more work and get more deals done, which is a huge win, I think, for the industry as a whole. And also ways of kind of allowing artists to actually get heard by more people and get the opportunities. And, you know, I've in the past helped, I have a small record label and have one artist on it who also happens to be my partner. But when she was releasing an album, I did a deal direct with Volvo for her to record a song for a television commercial in the UK and Ireland, which then got relicensed into Australia and into Taiwan. And at the same time, I got the audio company Bowers & Wilkins to fund the recording of her album and then kind of use her within lots of marketing initiatives across alongside it as well. And, you know, it opened my eyes to it from the other side as to how hard it can be unless you know the people, and I know the people. So I heard about the opportunities. I was being approached by somebody on the Volvo thing just for a bit of advice, and I was like, there's this singer. I happen to be working with them. What do you think? And it worked, and it's kind of like through it, I now having my own label in a very small way, we release our music via AWOL, and we have the opportunity of AWOL's sync team representing the music out there further. We actually haven't committed to it because she's like one tiny dot in the whole portfolio of music that they have, that it's just not actually worth our while because I'm out there anyway. So the opportunities come. So that's just good fortune, I think. But she, like, you know, if I had a deeper portfolio of artists, I'd be looking at, yes, I will do the sync thing with them as well. I'd probably, any of them that weren't published, I'd look at companies like Centric Publishing, where you can kind of sign up with, you sign up to have the publishing covered by them. They have a great sync team. You want to immediately build a rapport with the sync team if you can. and find reasons to talk to them regularly and share new music as well. But the brilliant thing about Centric is it's the 28-day cutoff period. So as soon as you get interest from a bigger publishing company, you can cut the deal and then do your own deal. So I think there's organizations who make it easier, but you're still one of millions.
Yeah, I just throw it out there. I just spoke with 2 guys from Cornell University in the US, and they are completely not from the music side, but they focused it on the problem. Like, okay, it's a slow process, and how do you make it faster and get even big artists or famous artists quicker? And so they're looking at like viral songs on socials, and they're just trying to like unlock those like 1,000 songs, let's say, that are viral on TikTok, and talk to their rights owners to unlock those songs for like a certain period of time, let's say 2 weeks, for like a lot less price, let's say $500 or $1,000 and give it for campaigns in that 2 weeks. And so companies, clients can just jump on it, and because they are coming from very different industries, they will target very different people or in very different way. And so what they don't make on like one big deal, they would make up on volume, because let's say 100 brands would use them in that 2 weeks or something. So there's all like new ways of using sync, and interesting ways, they are not like released yet.
There's something in it, of course. Help monetize the next phase of your career, create, get in front of lots of audiences, and try to find a way of making the most of actually helping audiences know that it's you and your music there that they're hearing, rather than going, oh, that sounds nice, and moving on, which is often the way. I think also it's funny because that idea is kind of where a lot of the major labels are heading themselves. They're looking at what's blowing up, and they're looking at what's signed through the like Virgin Music for Universal. They're seeing what's coming through there that they don't own, but they distribute, and they have the relationship with, that if something starts to blow up, they're in prime position to then kind of upsell that into kind of a huge deal, which might still go nowhere, because it might just be one song that kind of hit the mark, and then they fizzle away and the band's career ends. At least they've had one advance, but that's their career finished as well. So it's funny to see there's lots of parts of the industry looking in the same way as that company.
Yeah, because everything is social first now, and they're evolving from TVC.
Yeah,
so how do you see that change?
So I think there's, of course, a huge shift into that sense, but I think also artists haven't changed so much. A lot are very caring about their music, and they wouldn't necessarily want to see their song just being used on 1,000 ads, even if that is going to be the equivalent of one ad. So I think it also depends on the type of copyright, the type of song we're talking about, because yes, music has been consumed at a crazy fast speed lately. So there is like viral, perishable pieces of sound that come out, and then for me it makes more sense to use those in that way. But I would hardly see the Beatles, doing that with with their songs, or with the more established artists, and yeah.
But the great thing with sync is it doesn't have to be new music. And that's part of the fun as a music supervisor as well. It's kind of like you can go into different eras, different genres, different geographical locations. There's so much great music out there already. Yes, it's brilliant to hear all the new stuff coming through too, but it's both. So every brief I look at, even if they're talking about unknown kind of level of unknown artist level of budget, I'm still thinking about unknown just sitting in someone's catalog somewhere in the same way, because it's as meaningful for the creators to sometimes finally get that moment or whatever. I think that's the great thing about sync. It's comprehensive.
Does anyone have any questions? Okay. I think who was first? You start.
My question is that if you find some band's song and use it, do you usually use also the band as like a brand ambassador or an influencer, or not really?
It can happen, not always, but it can happen when there's a real good match with the identity of the brand and the artist. It can definitely happen, yeah.
And also, if the brand is also already sponsored by like a fashion brand, but a different brand that you are wanting to use their song to, is it like a no-go? Band is already sponsored by like, I don't know, like Nike, and you want to use their song
for Adidas, yeah. That would be. It would depend the level of sponsorship. I mean, is it like they did one post with the Nike shoe, or is it bigger than that? But yeah, ideally that would not be the case. That would be a no-go. But it depends on how strict the partnership is.
And I think that going back to your first question, at Burberry, we regularly would use an artist you would use the song, then we might shoot a performance video with them. We might end up asking them to perform live at London Fashion Week during a fashion show. We might put an orchestra behind them. We might use them as a model, even if they didn't look like a model, because they felt right for the campaign. But then, I think when it comes to conflicting and competitive brands, like you say, it depends on the scale. As a music supervisor, you would always flag it to the client to say, you do know that this has been used by Nike. And then, you'd hope that the music supervisor is doing that. And then it's their call as to whether they want to do it or not. It might be that you flag it, but it still feels like the right decision sometimes as well. So it can matter. In fashion, particularly, artists move around from brand to brand all the time. It's rare. Yeah, it's rare that the fashion brands actually tie musicians to long-term agreements because it costs too much, and fashion brands actually have a lot less money than people think in general.
Thanks.
Okay. So I have a couple of questions, if it's okay. Do you prefer artists with publishing contracts, or does it make any difference if you deal with them or not?
I mean, an artist needs, for us to be able to license a copyright, we would need somehow of a publishing setup to be able to do simply to clear those rights and to license it from the artist. So the publishing setup can be themselves, that's fine. But that needs to be quite clearly set up. They need to have an entity to be able to license those publishing rights from, and that the tracks are registered. So yes, it's not a necessity. It's at least we would need an entity.
But register everything.
Yeah.
Make sure, because then it makes it so much easier.
Yeah, a song that is not registered is just a no-go. That's a no-go for us for licensing, for legal reasons. It would be too risky. It's impossible. Yeah, we wouldn't be able.
Okay, thanks. And how can an artist get on your radar apart from this kind of events? So, like, do you get pitches all the time?
Yeah, get pitches often, doing licensing session, listening sessions with labels, but also we receive a lot of newsletter. For me, it's I prefer when I receive a newsletter or an email that is a bit personalized, and that if I receive an email saying this song I made is going to be perfect for an ad, I'm not interested. I want to hear the music of an artist. I want to hear real music made for with authenticity, and that's what is going to be interesting to hear. So yeah, get on the radar would be also. You can drop an email. You can, but again, for me, the most important is to get on the radar. We identify the talents. We just need to hear the music. So it's more like spending time on creating that music.
And I agree. I think it's be proactive, reach out to music supervisors and everyone, not just music supervisors, but if there's a particular music supervisor who's working on something that you think that's the thing, that's your focus, look at the world around that music supervisor as well. It's not stalking. It is a little bit, but you can look at their kind of social platforms and stuff and see who and what musicians they're interacting with, what that wider circle is, and start to try and pitch to other people, not going, I'm pitching to you so I can get to them, but to kind of go, I wanted this to be on your radar, because the world around, if the music really is as perfect as you're hoping, that it will filter through, because people trust each other in their circles, and you know, it's a very slow way of doing it, but there's no harm.
Yes, no, that's I agree. There's no, I mean, it's a way of doing it, being proactive. I think also a very important point is what happens once you're on the radar and the opportunity comes. I think there's so much preparation, because I saw opportunity falling through. Like the music gets heard. We've pitched the music. It's the client is excited about it, and then it doesn't work out because of a messy setup. So also wanting a sync is not only getting the music listened and creating the music, is also learning about a bit of the process of it and being knowledgeable about that. Because as music supervisors, if we come to the point where we're going to clear those rights, we need to have interlocutors that are responsive, because also in advertising it's so fast-paced. It's really you choose a song and then the next week it needs to be closed, the project is over, etc. So having people that are responsive and have a clear setup, and also to look at potential sync opportunities as long-term relationships, and not like just a one-time jackpot. Also, if because it's how it's been for years, but now there's so much content being produced, and when I pitch and place a catalog or an artist and it's been going really well, and everything's been smooth, and the negotiation been smooth, the clearance been smooth and stuff, I want to pitch them again, because it's just I know it's going to work out. I know it's fine. I know they understand. I know it's so it's also another tip for me would be that, to look at it as long-term relationships and not just one-off opportunity that falls from the sky.
Do you have more?
Yes, but just go on.
If we have time, because
Yeah, please.
Yeah, we're here for it.
okay, thank you. What would you advise to someone who would like to become a music supervisor? What are some of the platforms to follow, events to visit, places to do the networking?
Go to see bands play live, not just in Budapest, but you know, whenever you're traveling around the world, go to gigs, look at who's there, look who's hanging around the bar, see who came in late. They're probably the people that you're mainly looking for. If there's someone who looks like they're leaving early, probably someone you should quickly grab and say hi. But I think mainly it's I would say it's about understanding how music is being used. Start to have a point of view of your own on what the music is you would choose for different campaigns or different, you know, films, TV shows, whatever. Think about what exists already and try to understand for yourself why they may have made those decisions to get to those solutions, and have an opinion whether you think it's right or wrong as well. What would work better? Because when you get into the conversations then with music supervisors about the opportunity, if you're going into companies or whatever, they want to know your opinion. And they'll quickly get a sense of whether you have an understanding of the processes and the industry and thoughts around how you place music in against a visual, or for me, for a fashion show, you know, thinking about how you're understanding how to make people feel something through music, and kind of the dynamics and the textures and all the different colors that can come through music, through a different instrument, to a genre, through the type of voice, a way of singing, you know, the way of singing together or solo, or, you know, and it's kind of just obsess about it is what I would say, and then show that whenever you get the chance to meet with people who are in those roles, who might have opportunities for you along the way. But I think be a music obsessive and just resonate that, and it will come. Tune into the world of it, and just you know, I do believe in that whole thing of like, when you state your focus and then just build your life in that direction, and it can work.
That definitely, I think, yeah, it's super important to be obsessive about music, like this necessity. But on a more practical level, I think nowadays, I mean, it can be sometimes difficult because independent music supervision companies are usually small companies. They're sometimes revolving around one person, maybe two, which are, sorry, what? Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And sometimes it's not like easy that they have job openings, and so I think nowadays there's also other ways to get into the field because of what we've been talking about, because there's so much content now. Brands are starting to have music departments. Production companies have music departments, like Netflix, Amazon, all these companies, they have music departments. So I think labels, they have sync people. So of course, having a target as music supervisor and getting there directly might be a little bit difficult. But if you really want, I mean, it's not impossible. I'm not saying it is. Actually, I would say to identify different agencies, but that there is also other ways to get there. Because as a music supervisor as well, when I look at a CV, if I see that there's a relevant experience before, that would be from the side of my client, or from the side of the client or the label or the right holders. That's very valuable experience as well to become a music supervisor after.
And I think also independent creatives, it's people who are making films with limited budgets and actually offering your services to work together with them. I still do projects now where I don't get paid, because I'm obsessed about the creative idea. So I worked on a London Fashion Week show last month with an emerging designer doing his first official London Fashion Week show. He was an intern at Burberry 8 years ago, and we knew of each other but hadn't met. And I just sent him an email 2-3 months ago saying, I saw your last non-official show. I loved it. I'd love to help you with music direction on your next thing. And he was like, is music direction a thing? What is this? And I said, yeah, this is what I did for Burberry. And he went, okay, let's have a call. And he was like, and you're sure you want to do this? I was like, yeah, totally. And we created this live performance soundtrack with a singer called Douglas Dare, a double bass player, and a pianist, and using music from over 100 years ago to avoid copyright issues, along with Douglas, the singer's own compositions that he approved and signed off at no budget, because there was no music budget. But it's probably the most fun project I've worked on this year. And I think yes, I'm fortunate that I was able to do that along with everything else that I do. But if, along with everything you do at the moment, you find some of these collaborators to work with, then it gives you, suddenly you've got credits and things that you can show as evidence that you are a music supervisor because you've worked on projects. No one needs to know that you didn't get paid. I shouldn't have told you that. Anyway.
Just as an addition to this, that I feel that sometimes it's a cultural thing also, that in certain countries it's just not, the directors, let's say, just so, you know, they cannot be detached from choosing music and going after it. That it's just a must that they make this choice, and it's just so emotional and close to them that it's not like I don't know, set dressing that they can give to a person that dresses
course.
and does the set.
But sometimes their ideas and their budget are not really. So yes, we try to help them. That's also where the role of the music supervisor comes handy, because you can be a director, can have brilliant musical ideas and creative ideas, but doesn't necessarily have the knowledge of understanding how much a copyright will cost for the usage within his film, and essentially he doesn't have to think about these things. He needs to just focus on the creative part of it. So that's where we come in play sometimes, and this is like a lot in films. Like, okay, I want Rosalia on this one, and I want this and that, and then the budget, can you say, okay, maybe library music. No, but this more on the joking side. But yeah, also it's finding great replacements and trying to help the director's vision to come to life. I think also as a music supervisor, it's really important to I think you mentioned the word opinion. From my point of view, nobody wants to hear my personal opinion, whether I like it or not. It's not what I'm hired for. I'm hired to find the best idea for the scope of the job and of the project, and yeah, help to get there. Whether then I think it's a great idea or not, I can give hints, but yeah.
But what you do bring is taste and experience.
Yes, exactly.
So yeah.
More questions? Yes.
Is it still in time?
Yeah.
Okay, this might be a little bit out of topic, but I talked to many people from different aspects of the music industry. Has AI been impacting your work in any ways? Or is it supporting it, helping it?
So AI generated music, you mean?
In any way can you use AI to help?
Well, yeah. So for example, on Catalog, we integrated AI for similarity search. So usually on a project, directors or creative directors come up with a reference track, and that's what they want initially. Sometimes they have the budget, sometimes they don't, but that's always a starting point. And today there's AI similarity tools, so they analyze the audio and just on your library give you similar audio. So we definitely use that. I'm a firm believer that AI can really empower the human creation. So we still do the initial curation. All the music that is in there has been created by humans, but then it's going to be thousands and thousands of tracks. So if you can have AI to help you gather them, it's great. So yeah, I guess AI.
And I was going to ask also this, that what about the generative AI? Do you meet a lot of new music that's part of it was generated by AI and the musicians tell you that, or?
Thankfully, no.
No? Aren't they using it as they used to use samples, let's say? You know, they just take something from somewhere else and use it?
Thankfully, I've checked some of the tools that generate music. I'm pretty impressed. I think, wow, when I listen to it, it's impressive, but it's
got a long way to go.
Yeah, and it's incomparable with I mean, it's art, it's music. It is supposed to be done. It can empower. It can make it easier to get to places. But I think the human aspect of it is going to be and it will always be
but I think
important
people use
in
it
music.
Not as black and white that, you know, they just hit the button and do the whole thing with it. Just maybe 10% of the song.
Oh yeah, of course. I mean, I was mentioning more because now there's like platforms made for brands for sync actually, where you write me a jingle that says this and that sounds like a bit like that artist, and that's and in a few seconds it's generated, and honestly sometimes for mass market product, let's say, I don't know, I don't know in English, but let's say just a random product, maybe they don't care so much whether it's been made by a human or not. So maybe I think that's going to definitely make some noise and be used more and more.
I think the issue will come, the ongoing kind of thing that's lurking. It's kind of, well, what informed the creation of that music using AI? You know, what existing music has been kind of what data has been scraped to make it. And as technology gets better to actually dig deeper to find that information as well, it's going to be interesting to see how that impacts the use of AI-generated music as well. I think ethical AI-generated music, where there's a human hand to it, is really interesting. And I think, to your point on samples and stuff, and creating things that have a similar feel but aren't, you know, yeah, totally. You know, I can see that happening more and more, and actually that makes life a lot easier. And existing music which hasn't been able to be used historically, which if there was a way of replacing samples within some of that stuff to make it available to use for sync, that's really interesting too.
And also we use audio similarity, but we also use stems creation with AI, which has been amazing, because sometimes there's tapes from the 60s, 70s, 50s even, and there's no stems, and now you have the possibility to extract those stems. So I think AI can really empower and help us to achieve great things. Like, I mean, now those tapes, you know, you can create a remix on those songs, or you can create things that in the past were impossible. So I think in that sense it's great, but of course it has some limits of it. Yeah.
Yeah. More questions? You guys are a lot more active than usually. So
Yeah, great.
Yeah. No more? Okay. Perhaps we're gonna take a break now, like a 5-minute break, and then continue with listening some songs. They told you, right? We're gonna listen. Okay. So yeah.